So we have, a gentleman that lives in the 900 block, or no, I'm sorry, Mr. Nelson Rivera, who's also joining us via Zoom.
That's his house.
And, okay, it sits up on the hill, okay. Very good, and then Mike Kelly, is joining us via Zoom, and then I assume Mr. Guest will chime in. At some point, we can bring him in when you're ready for comment. We think that's probably gonna be about 6:30, 6:15, or close to, yeah. Okay, past 6:30, okay, very good.
So it's 6 o'clock, so I want to call to order this meeting. And we'll start with you, Andrew.
So let me ask you a question. Do you have, when it comes to this issue here, do you have 20, 25 minutes worth of stuff to tell us before? Because, I mean, we went through this last week, or 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Is there anything?
We have some updates, and then we have the slides from last time as well, that if you'd like to ask questions and go back to the different options, we certainly can do that, you know, as a refresher. But we hadn't prepared to go over that. We really had prepared just to kind of update you on.
I don't want to hear it. I mean, I think we've already heard it. We understand all that. Kind of my point is that if we're waiting on these other people to join us via Zoom, and it's going to be 20 or 30 minutes, is it not smarter to switch the agenda around and do item number 3 before item number 2, or?
We discussed this, yeah, we're gonna do that.
Oh, it doesn't look like it.
We just talked about it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, before I was, yeah, so I can let me bring up the agenda.
We can use public comments at the end.
Okay. So you'd like to talk about number 3, presentation on the wastewater treatment plant capital projects?
Yeah, well, if not, we're gonna sit here for 10 minutes waiting on Mr. Guest, who's the guy that asked specifically, and, you know, I think we need to give him the voice since he's asked for it.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so,
I agree with that. So let's start with the presentation of the wastewater treatment plant, and then we'll move on to other items. And then the last item that we'll do, number 4, will be the discussion of College Street.
Thanks, sir.
Are y'all interested in the wastewater treatment plant?
Looking at the list you have from our preliminary engineering report from last fall, I wouldn't call it a wish list, but we wouldn't probably schedule this aggressively capital-wise.
Yeah, so just to give some more information before I let Don kind of talk more about it. When Don was over the wastewater plant in his previous position as Assistant Director of Public Works for Utilities, he put out a contract with CHA to help develop a capital needs and overall assessment of a wastewater treatment facility. It's been how many years since there's been a major overhaul of the facility?
I think the last one was in
2000. So it's been about 22 years since there's been any major upgrades at the facility. So this PER was designed to kind of go through, see what the current needs are, and work through how those can be met in a reasonable time frame with funding, knowing that there's going to be some significant capital investment needed at the facility over the next 5, 10, 20 years. So this list was developed and associated with CHA in providing cost estimates, looking at high priority needs, and as Randy stated, you know, these are actual needs, not just wish list items. And it's been broken down into 3 different implementation schedules, both 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and then 10 to 20 years. The thing that this also includes is a few collection system projects, notably the Silver Lake Interceptor, some lift station replacement renewals, and then there's also an I&I project with Arrowhead sewer improvements that's listed in the 5 to 10 year schedule. So with that, I'll let Don, if he wants to highlight any projects in particular, probably the biosolids upgrade is one to maybe highlight. But we can also answer any questions if you have specifics about any of the projects that are listed here, or any of that nature. So
The piece of equipment that you were talking about the other day to replace one of the,
so the
where is
centrifuge,
that in here?
that's under the biosolids upgrade here, the RDF and centrifuge. So that's listed as existing because we've started, well, design is nearly complete. It's 90% phase for design.
Right.
And so the engineering is near completion on that. It just needs, the actual construction dollars need to be funded.
Were they previously allocated?
Not construction dollars. Engineering was allocated to be completed.
And there's other sewer-related projects in addition to wastewater treatment plant, like the Silver Lake Interceptor
Correct.
lift station.
So which ones are the priorities here? You're talking, you said that area number 1 is 1 to 5 or 1 to 3, and then the other ones.
So the way the PER was performed, and Don, correct me if I misstate anything, the PER looked at different system areas of the plant. So there's 10 or more different areas. System area 1 is kind of like your main intake, your influent area, which includes your grit removal equipment, any of your primary screening, screw pumps, and then it moves different system areas down through the plant. So, for instance, system area 3 is your actual primary clarifier. System area 8, I assume, is more so electrical and structural, probably facility related, buildings. And so there's all those different system areas. So everything on here, it's not necessarily prioritized and in terms of high, low, 1 through 10. This is what came from the PER that was decided was needed to happen at the plant.
With this capital improvement plan was designed with a 20-year cycle of repair for the wastewater treatment facility. What we did was we identified all of the improvements that need to happen over the next 20 years, and then we prioritized them in, this needs to happen in 0 to 5 years, this needs to probably happen in 5 to 10 years, and then everything else is 10 to 20. With the thought that we're gonna fix these things in 0 to 5 years, and somewhere towards the end of the first 5 years, we're gonna get an engineer to revisit this to see what we've done and where we're gonna go. Some of those things on the 5 to 10 and the 10 to 20 won't necessarily happen in 5 to 10 and 10 to 20 based upon the next visit by the engineer. But the idea is we need to try to work on everything in the 0 to 5 in this 0 to 5 years. Then below that, there's a line that says $174,000 for annual capital replacement. So in addition to these major construction items that are listed in the 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and 10 to 20, we need to also be spending $174,000 buying pumps and motors and the smaller items that are still capital purchases, but we need those just to keep the plant running.
Does Valerie have all this 10-year plan already under the budget? Because you said that this has been in there for a while, right?
She's aware of this preliminary engineer.
Okay, so is she planning to, does she know from where the money is coming from, or?
Does she have a budget for 10 years from now? No, she doesn't.
But in this 1 to 3 years, you should have an idea of what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, basically what we do is we essentially try to do 5-year capital planning
Mhm.
with, detailed planning for basically next fiscal year.
And does she know from where the money's coming to pay for this?
Yes, she has projections for what is eligible to spend on capital in the budget.
Okay. So I guess we'll be able to use some of the general funds for this, right? With the town
Well,
council approval.
all honesty, the hope is that it'd be from water and sewer enterprise fund, as much as possible.
How much money do we have in the saved up?
In the reserves, I can't tell you off the top of my head, I'll get it number for you.
And so what we're looking into, I see different numbers here. I see a $16 million, $14 million, and then the 14.
But that's the 16 and the 14, the second one's, that's 5 to 10 years. So the one that we really are concerned with is the top one, the 14,763. And that's over the next 5 years, 15 million over the next 5 years. So if we appropriate $3 million a year, you know, is there really a better way to instead of us going, okay, we're gonna give you $3 million a year capital, and then you figure out, what you can get accomplished with the $3 million, is it like, we really need 3.2 the first year and 2.8 the second year?
What I would really like to do is a detailed 5-year capital plan, that way everything is scheduled out.
Right.
Honestly, the software that we have, I think will probably make that a little bit easier for us, because
Okay.
we're installing Palomino software.
Because we're really talking 15 million over, because if you add in the 174,000, the annual, to the 14.7, then we're right at 15 million obligating. Well, it's a little more, because it's 74
Yeah.
per year, so that's 500, that's additional $500,000,
That's correct.
plus 600 and some $1,000, but still, we're right at $15 million, and budget-wise, that says we're gonna give you $3 million a year. But is there a smarter way to say, here's what we're gonna do here's what we think are because some of them look like they're fairly, the 20,000, 30, 40,000, you can do a checklist and knock them off relatively quick, but.
You said that, Valerie had mentioned when we were talking about the park, that we could be able to, borrow up to 120-something millions of dollars.
We could, and it is fairly normal to borrow for capital projects like water and sewer projects. Also, I'd said earlier, it would be nice to pay for it through the enterprise fund. The town has historically subsidized the water and sewer enterprise fund to some degree too. And we typically have done, projects, is typically how we subsidize it.
And so is not this centrifuge one of the top priorities?
Yes.
Right, and that's almost 4 million, right? So.
But that's not really in this budget, isn't it, for this year?
Well, we're still working on capital for this year's budget. I don't think it was scheduled for this year anyhow.
It wasn't. No, we're, this project is at 90% on design right now. It'll be ready to go out to bid the 1st of July.
So if he's going out for bid, that means that he should still be part of the budget.
It would
Right.
be ready to go out to bid. So we'll have the bid documents ready, but it won't be issued or advertised.
Until when?
The money is there.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So, all of the debt fell off the line this year.
Maybe last year,
That was
or the
Yeah,
last
like-
one maybe
yeah.
kicked off, yeah.
within the last 12 months. So Valerie and us have been in discussions on the best way to finance this. So you're looking at state revolving funds, or something like that, and grouping some of the larger things together and going out to that. And then piecemealing the smaller projects, which we've been trying to accomplish for the last couple of years with that. So Ms. Tweedy is aware of all that, and at this point, we're about ready to sit down with her and look at all that and get her opinion on what would be the best avenue to do that.
And part of the goal of this biosolids project was to have at least one thing ready, shovel-ready, for when this, American infrastructure thing came out. And I believe this project's right there.
It'd be a great candidate.
Well, we also have College Street. All right.
Earlier this presentation, I think Councilwoman Hicks has asked in regards to what was needed at wastewater treatment plant capital project, so that's part of the reason I put it on the agenda.
Oh, good.
We will probably have, I guess, larger presentations for town council in regards to water, sewer, streets.
So when I'm looking at this thing or whatever, what you're talking about for the next 5 years, but then when we look at the things that are really needed for this year, the biosolids you were talking about, that it won't be ready until July. So does that mean that we don't necessarily have to bring this to council right now, but I do think that they should know that this is coming. And there is gonna be a chance that we may have to have an amendment to the budget. Is that what your thoughts are, or do you wanna do this under the work session?
Some of these will probably be included in this proposed budget that we'll be having, that we present, it's the second meeting in March that, Val and I have to present the budget to council.
I guess one of the biggest things,
Some of these will be in.
one of the biggest things that I am concerned for this year is just to make sure that we obviously take care of the needs first. But then when we're looking at the biosolid machine that you guys were talking about the last time, I do think that this is something that we should definitely discuss during the work session. Make sure that maybe we can push through it to get in this budget. Just because it's going to help our workers. And it seemed like it was going to help tremendously, the waste facility. So, out of all the plans, is there anything else that needs to be, like, ASAP, we need to try to get it to council?
This is a pretty detailed study of the plant and what was needed, so I think this should be, it's one of those things it's like the aquatic center, sometimes you have things that go wrong you didn't necessarily count on.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, we think this is a pretty good list of what we expect as far as needed maintenance.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, what are the priorities here as far as which machines and what things do we need today? And I think for the allocation of funds and things like that, that machine seems like number one, right? Or is there anything else under this list that needs to be taken care of before the budget session happens?
Over the next month, Al and I are gonna sit down with staff and try to prioritize these items with them.
That would be fantastic.
That's kind of what we do typically with every budget. To some degree, it is prioritized by the 5-year, the 10-year, and the 15-year, or 10+. But, obviously, yes, we, and like I say, we do that really with every capital budget planning session. Every year, we sit down with staff and try to basically schedule out what's needed.
Okay. Do you have any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you guys for this report. It's really, really nice. And I guess when you guys have the list of priorities as part of this list, I would love to see them. I guess before we talk about College Street, let's talk about other items, if that's okay, or do you have anything else in mind?
Mr. Guest is on the line now.
Awesome,
So he has
okay.
joined us,
So let's
and,
go right ahead and go to College.
and he does have a meeting at 7, he said, so.
Okay.
There he is.
Can you give us an overview of what's happened since our last meeting instead of the?
Yeah, so basically,
Wayne Nelson, is working with us as a part-time employee, and he's reached out to the property owners in the area of the 5 households and the 6, I guess, majorly affected properties, including the house where the driveway would be moved. We've gotten, I guess, mixed results from the property owners in terms of whether they would, which option they may prefer, at least in regards to willingness to relocate. I think, at least one property owner indicated that they definitely would not want to sell, relocate. Maybe at least 2 have indicated that, at least 1 or 2 have indicated they would be willing to. So just, that kind of creates, that creates a situation that we don't feel we could do a smaller project and have it be feasible and have a small pond in the area. So, like I say, if you don't have the appetite for condemnation, which I take it, I've kind of gathered town council doesn't, that may eliminate the lower pond problem.
Exactly.
Option.
Just to explain a little bit what you're looking at is basically these are all, the properties in yellow are the, property owners that Wayne has made contact with and has gotten confirmation one way or the other, that they would be willing, to move forward with this. You'll see 710 and 750 and I think 970, further up the street. It's a small little parcel. They are, the house themselves are yellow, but the property it's not, and that indicates that Wayne has reached out to them but has not, been able to talk with them. I think, for example, 710 is the Masonic Lodge, and they meet tomorrow.
Monday.
Or they meet Monday evening.
Are they rentals?
Yeah.
I
mean, there are a number of rentals through this these 3 blocks, absolutely.
But the properties you just talked about, are they rentals?
Besides the Masonic Lodge, both of those are rentals.
Right, so this one that I mentioned, that is a rental, and this, I'm not sure about.
I don't believe so.
No, okay, yeah. But anyway, these 2, items above, I think that's information that you've heard before, that they've expressed willingness to grant an easement for the conveyance system, and those that would be impacted by the upper pond have expressed the willingness to grant the easements for the upper pond. As Randy was saying, and kind of giving a little bit detail, these are the 6 property owners who would be impacted by a potential purchase of the lower pond, and we've had mixed responses regarding the purchases. Regarding funding options, which would be good to discuss further as well, there is the ability to be able to complete the resiliency plan. That would be hopefully in the fall of 2022, and then we would look to apply. That's a rolling fund, so we would apply for funds from the Community Flood Preparedness Fund in the fall, and then as far as the timeframe of when we would find out, it's a little unclear to us at this point. As we get into it, we'll find out more information, but that would be a matching range of 40 to 50%, and then we would have to budget for that as well in our budget year as well. I mean, there could be a budget amendment, of course, but we have that shown here at 2023-24, and then project completion potentially mid-2025. And that's kind of, we think, a pretty aggressive time frame for that funding choice. And again, it's not guaranteed that we would get those funds either, but we do think that it is a very good resource for trying to provide some available dollars, grant dollars, to the project. The second would be apply for Vdot revenue sharing with the 50/50 match, with the next deadline being the fall of 2023. And then it is a 6-year transportation improvement plan, so if it was funded, project completion would probably be 2028 or 2029. And again, a 50-50 match is not guaranteed, based on the tier determination during funding, and it is not a high-ranking tier project. It's a second or third tier.
It'd be a tier 2 or tier 3, correct.
And then the third option, and there may be variations of these, and there's variations that we could start the engineering sooner as well, but these are just three general, options for funding. Would be.
The ARPA would be kind of like the general fund, stormwater, enterprise fund, basically the same schedule. The one problem with that is because of the timelines associated with ARPA. Just, you may be running up against their deadlines.
Well, I thought it was 26, wasn't it?
It's, basically, it would have to be, I wish I'd written down the dates. There's dates for commitment, there's dates for expenditure, and there's dates for reporting. And
So
I don't want to tell you the dates when I
So
don't
we
have
have
them.
moved the money for a year already, we put it in the general fund, knowing that this is money that can be allocated for infrastructure issues and things like the stormwater issues.
I'll say this
But if
about,
we do have the money in the budget right now that is in there, that money can come to this budget and be part of this budget with the town council vote. And then why does it take for the funds to be available in 2024, when we got the money right now?
if you use general fund or ARPA, that'd be a possibility, unless you wanted to wait to apply for.
So if it's with the ARPA funds, we are able to use those this year, correct?
You could, as long as you're expending them within the time frame.
Okay.
I'll also say this too, the town could literally kind of just claim the ARPA funds. Several different ways really, and we could claim lost revenue from COVID during pandemic is one thing we could claim. So we could claim money that way. We could say that we're spending the ARPA money towards emergency services salaries, and kind of claim it that way.
Didn't we do that with the CARES Act, money already?
We did. I think I don't think we paid I think we paid a portion of emergency services, but I think it was just a portion that was immediately in the COVID response, like Chief Hanks, for example. I think we paid a portion of his, and so, like I say, staff that was involved in the response. But I don't think otherwise. The ARPA money, we did pay the bonuses for public works and emergency services. That was paid from ARPA money.
Which was like, under 500,000, wasn't it?
It was much less than that.
Yeah. How much money does the town make every year on the stormwater fund?
I think we generate, I want to say 1.4 million.
That sounds right.
That's about right, Randy.
Do you have any capital projects that are being funded with the stormwater fee this year?
The current fiscal year?
Yeah.
We do. There's a project, the industrial park project should be, we got SLAF money for that. And so we'll be leveraging that money to finish that project in the next calendar year. There's some work over at the Sleepy Hollow project.
Which you haven't started yet.
We've started design on that one. The construction has not been budgeted. So, I mean, if College Street, if that one of these pulled off that, we would delay that project potentially. Trying to think what else.
What about Hickok Street?
That's part of that as well. That is correct. Yes, ma'am.
But Hickok Street can take a step to the side. We decided to do this first, right? Or how does that work?
I mean, there's commitments to Vdot that we've made to spend the money, but I don't know what those drop dead dates are. I mean, I guess that would be a potential to consider delaying that project, but it's a 50-50 match, so there's not as much money as it may seem is available if that one got delayed. I think construction's in the $2.5 million range. So only half of that would be coming from the fund, the other half be coming from Vdot.
So really, it's next steps, we're kind of going into the conversation, but it sounds like you all also want to take some time for public comment, but, yeah, we would be looking for committee direction that we could bring to town council. We'd still be looking at bringing this to town council next Tuesday night, is that correct, on the 22nd? And then at that point, you believe we could move forward. We have some money available in our budget this year for engineering, and we would have to budget additional dollars next year for further engineering, for the design of the
Didn't we
stormwater
pay
solution.
$100,000 for this already?
As far as we have paid for, the study, of that, but we have not designed it per se. So is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Could that be added on?
I think we did about 80,000 to do the initial study, and that looked at all the alternatives and made those, various alternatives for us to review and y'all to review and make a selection. The actual detailed design, that would come thereafter.
Who will do the detailed design? Do you guys have enough engineers to do that, or do we have to?
We would have to sub that out to a consultant.
I think we should get Mr. Guest on the line really quick, if that's.
Yeah, I think it's time to ask for some public comments, and then we'll close it out.
There it is.
I went ahead and turned my video on. Thank you again, Randy, and all the crew for allowing me to tie in from Temple, Texas area while I'm working. I have a question in regards to the budget. These numbers don't frighten me at all. In my 20s, I worked in OEM manufacturing and offshore production and contractors, and the divisions I worked for, we were shipping $5 million a month. That's just my divisions. So I have a question in regards to the ARPA money, the rescue plan money that was allocated. So Blacksburg got $13.3 million. That doesn't affect us. Christiansburg, and if I sound rough, it's because my sinuses aren't catching up to the dryness down here. I guess my body's used to the dampness and more humid area of Blue Ridge Mountains. It's not like I'm angry, so I wanted to mention that. Christiansburg, we got $3.1 million. I'm just rounding. Montgomery County received, let me see, $19 million. So for decades and decades and decades, College Street area, and in my email last night, I really meant it. We are living in a historical area of Christiansburg in Montgomery County. It was just a bedroom community getting started in the late 40s and early 50s. Montgomery County got $19.1 million. We've been paying Montgomery County taxes to people who've owned the homes for 50, 60, 70, 100 years. So we are part of Montgomery County. The middle school, part of the Montgomery County. The retention pond, and I'm going to use terminology that everyday people do, not civil engineering words. That's a Montgomery County project. So $19 million they got from ARPA money, along with the $13.1 million that the town of Christiansburg got. That gives, if my math is doing right, something like $32 million. So why are we building parks? And this is rhetorical. I don't want to get into this argument. That we can approve in December of 2020 and cut the dirt 4 months later in March, but yet we went, Preston and Grace, whose puppy was drowned in this flood in 2020. We had 3 back-to-back in 2020, from Memorial Day weekend to end of August, September. But yet our project that is life-threatening and health issue, why is it taking till 2024, 2028, 2029, those dates that were flashed up, to get this done? I don't understand the priority. I don't understand the focus on, you've mentioned in this meeting, the aquatic center. I don't know what y'all are doing over there to the aquatic center. It's not open to the public fully yet. Why can't this be a priority? Because we're dealing with a life and death matter. Granted, it was just a puppy, but you know, if we were to personally take our hand against a puppy like Phoebe, yeah, someone could be put in jail, right? So this is life-threatening. This is a health issue, but yet the priorities of town seem to be, let's build more parks. That's rhetorical. It's not meant for open discussion. That would be wrong at this point. But if we've got $32 million in ARPA money between Montgomery County, which we continue to pay taxes to Montgomery County, we pay fuel, as you know. Why can't we pull from ARPA money that you were just talking about to get this job done sooner, when we're dealing with livelihood, people's jobs, people's life, the health of College Street? And this is a man-made issue. And like in my email said, this is a man-made issue. This is not us sitting under or on top of and underneath tributary, a waterway.
Mr. Guest, this is Councilman Wilson. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tim.
Hey,
I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson. I apologize.
You're fine. Hey, look, so I hear you. I get it from you. And as far as the priority goes, you know, when we just started this new year with the new council, right? And there's 3 newly elected council members, and we vowed to make this a priority. We've had 2 meetings of the Water and Waste Committee, and in both meetings, the primary topic of discussion is the College Street issue. We're committed to getting an answer to this, and to be able to speak for why it wasn't a priority of the previous council is like you said, it's a moot point. And so what we're trying to get in public discussion is not more of how it was screwed up, but what you've heard the options, right?
Yes.
And so Mrs. Hicks and I have to go to the council in a week and provide them with feedback and what we think is the viable option for the town.
Right.
And if you would be so kind, because we don't usually allow a whole lot of time for people to talk, tell us what you think is the one in a very brief moment, because there's other people here that need to speak as well.
Sure. And that's why I sent the email last night, actually midnight here, or so. Proposal C, sum it up.
Okay.
That's a solution. I'm not here to go back over, issues. Thank you for mentioning that. That was just thrown out there. And what's past is past, mistakes from the past. Totally understand it. Thank you so much for focusing on this issue. Both of you on town council, Ms. Hicks and Mr. Wilson, thank you for making it a priority. Moving forward, I think proposal C is the answer. That is the solution. And with $32 million total between Montgomery County and the town of Christiansburg ARPA money, I'm thinking that's pennies compared to the large picture. Go ahead and get started on it real quick.
Yeah, your numbers, Mr. Guest, we only got a little bit over $3 million in the ARPA funds. We did get CARES Act plan money the year before, but the American Rescue Plan was about $3 million and what, Randy?
3.15.
3.15, and then Montgomery County, yes, they did get like 19 million, but obviously the town of Christiansburg does their budgeting separate from the
Right.
county.
Yes, 3,115,411 to be exact, Christian.
Thank you so much, Mr. Guest.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
I'll stand by and listen.
Is Rivera a resident? Let's see if Nelson wants to.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, good. Do you like to speak?
No, I'm good. I'll listen on the discussions.
Do you have a suggestion? You've heard the options we have. Do you have a concern or which option was best for you?
All the options are actually all the options are okay with me, but I think I might gonna go with the majority.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do any of you guys want to speak? You guys had some time to think since last week. Would you like to, actually 2 weeks ago, would you like to tell us what your option will be that is favorable for you guys?
We don't really have a preference as long as something gets done, I guess.
Okay. All right, I love that, to hear that. What about you?
Yeah, the same, see.
Okay.
Doesn't interrupt our homes and allows us to stay there. Even if we choose to sell, it's like, at least something will get done.
One thing I do want to stress is, under option C, we're doing design for a 25-year storm. So,
Yeah.
There is a possibility
They know.
that if you were to do this project.
And thanks for putting that out again in this meeting, so it is public. We're telling you again, this is a 25-year storm. If a 100-year storm hits, there's no guarantee, so.
It doesn't have to be 100-year necessarily, it could be
Yeah.
50 or even a 25.
Right.
And just because it's called a 25-year storm doesn't mean you couldn't have them back-to-back years.
Yeah.
It's really more a percentage chance of having a storm. 100-year storm, there's essentially a 1% chance of that storm at any given year.
Got it.
Okay, so how do we move on to telling council that this is one of the options that the homeowners are wanting to work with?
If that's the recommendation of the committee, then.
I would like to make the recommendation.
Yeah, I
We take a
concur.
vote, take it to council for their approval. Option C will be the option that we'll take to council.
Yes, concur.
If town council agrees as well, then we can move forward in looking at more specifics at this point. What property would the pond be on? What is available now potentially, and how could it be laid out? And some of the more specifics for option C.
Okay. And what's the, time frame that you think from the time that we start? If we, let's just say we use the money that we have now, and let's just say we allocate the money today, what is the time frame of completion?
I take it you want this allocated recommendations as soon as possible, I gather. So we'll try to budget for it as soon as possible, although I guess I would want some clarification, direction from you there. Do you want us to pursue grants?
I personally think that this is a problem that we have to deal with it now, and I will hate to wait for another year for the people to drown or something to happen.
Yeah, and I think that, I want it fixed tomorrow, but I also realize there's a lot about the money that I don't understand yet fully. And so when you look at some of the splits, the potential splits, if we allocate money to start the project before those grants are written, can we still not submit for the grant?
At least with the VDOT grants, you can't claim already expended money.
Correct.
Yes.
Vdot is very particular in that regard.
So option number one wasn't a VDOT one.
That's the CFPF. I don't know enough about that funding program to know if, expenses are retroactive, I guess is a better term. More than likely with any of them, as long as you don't start a phase, you can more than likely get reimbursed for that. So with the CFPF.
So if there was a second or third phase of it, we
Well,
could
we
potentially.
could do design and then ask for funding for construction.
Right.
And potentially get money for construction, but what we spend on design is not gonna be retroactive.
Right. But it's money that we could put back in if we initially say we're gonna allocate X million, then.
I can't think of any grants myself off the top of my head that would pay you kind of retroactively after you've done
Okay.
something on it. But like Justin said, we could come up with some type of phasing options to, you know, at least maybe be able to get funding for portions of it.
Mr. Guest brought a good point up, which was the one about, you know, how these properties have been part of the county all these years. How, you know, they did get 90 million, which they can also allocate for, you know, infrastructure and the stormwater. I think I'm like Tim, I would have loved to have this done yesterday. And I think we really have wasted, like well, it's not wasted, but we are in a year now, past a year, where some of the storms happened a year ago. And I think, you know, for us, it's important to take care of these problems, but also be financially stable as a town. Is there a way that we can, you know, make this happen today? Well, obviously it's not gonna happen today, but bring it to council, but then also at the same time, talk to the county and say, hey, we got this money that needs to be taken care of. I mean, the county just came to us and asked us for $300,000, you know? And so that's really a benefit to them. This is a benefit to the county and the town, plus the fact that we're going to allow these homes to stay, and they're still gonna be making that real estate money for years to come. I think it would be worth asking them to see if there is any money that they can allocate to the stormwater problem in College Street.
You mentioned the possibility of having meetings with the county, and, you know, Craig and I have mentioned, you know, trying to get dates. You think sometime in the spring to meet with the county? I think we'd have to have an agenda set agreeable to both bodies, but,
I mean, I've been asking for this meeting for a while,
I'm
so.
willing to discuss anything with the county's willing to discuss with us, and our council's willing to discuss.
I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, if they'll listen, I'm more than game to go ask them for money. The worst thing they can do is tell us no. Right?
What?
Which is what most likely they'll do, but you never know for sure till you ask.
Well, we told them the other day, we're giving them $300,000, no problem, so. Yeah, I think my senses will be, let's go right ahead and, ask council, you know, to see if we can pay for this year, and talk to Valerie and see how we can allocate some of the American Rescue Plan money into this.
We'll have it on the council agenda this coming Tuesday for discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. So,
Just as a point of clarification, what type of presentation would you like for the full council? Similar to what was done
Tonight's.
Tonight's, okay.
Yeah, I think they've seen the other proposals,
Very
and
good.
I think what council would be looking for is, what is the recommendation from?
Tonight's with option C put in, just add option C to what you showed tonight, and that'll give us something to.
I'll include the prior presentation in the council packet, that way they can refer to it, but we'll bring this one.
Yeah, for the actual meeting.
and I'm really glad that you guys all came together to make a decision on what you guys want, because it was very important, like Randy said, the other council members were only 2 years, well, 3, but the reality is, some of the comments from the other council members were, it's all or none. And I think the fact that you guys made our decision much easier.
Do you have a count on of the property owners affected? How many wanna sell, how many of them don't wanna sell? Have we got that solid figure?
Yeah, we did get.
And what is the number?
So
Who
it
wants
was
to sell? Don't y'all want them to sell
2
last
didn't
week?
want to for sure.
You want them to sell last week?
2 didn't, 2 don't want.
There was 2 that said 100% no
Okay.
in that group. And
And I
that's
don't
where the
blame them,
dilemma
they're
is.
old, and they have been there almost all their lives.
I don't think so, based on the years they've been, but anyway. Okay, that's fine. I think it will come to a point of discussion.
All right, so we got, other items. I have an item to bring out. I would really, really like to see us, I feel like the wash bay is part of our public.
Can we end the public part? We're gonna talk about other stuff. If the people on, Zoom, we're done College Street, so if y'all wanna take off, by all means, do so. And anyone else who's in the room, we're just gonna talk about stuff non-College Street related for the rest of the meeting. Ben, thank you for being present, though. Yep.
Thank you so much. I would really, really like to see, the wash bay under the budget items for this year. I wanna make sure that our employees are taken care of. I'll make sure that they're happy when they do their job. And hopefully that will help us retain some of them.
Is it a priority for Public Works to have that wash bay expansion?
To be honest with you, we're looking to move out of it, and we've discussed this before. If it were me to invest in there, I would rather invest in a new piece of property, build a new facility. Just for your information, town council has, I guess, looked at other properties for potential public works relocation in the past.
And how much is that gonna cost?
Well, it depends on where you were to buy and exactly what you were to
And
build.
where is that at? Because I haven't seen it.
It's been a while since they've discussed it, but we've had closed meetings in the past about it.
So you do have some pieces of property in mind already for this?
That we had discussed in the past, yes, although right now I don't think that's really an option for us.
Because we don't have the money, right?
Well, that, and I think they have the property leased, so I don't think they're really necessarily looking to sell it right now. There's other properties around too that we discussed. Like I say, we've done that with councils.
Well, here is my biggest concern. We have a park that we gotta pay. We got this sheet of things that we gotta figure out how to take care of in the next 10 years. We got a whole bunch of expenses with the aquatic center. We got money that's got to be allocated in the budget for all kinds of things. And we just don't have money to be able to buy another property right now. And that's my personal feeling. I personally feel that our employees need to be taken care of, even if it's a little bit. I don't think that the $80,000 that is gonna cost for a wash bay is gonna kill us. And if we have to wait for another, 5 years until we get to another facility, that's 5 years that these employees will be washing these trucks and cars on the freezing cold pretty much without having the coverage that they need.
Can I speak real quick?
Sure.
So, we do have a wash bay. You've
Yes,
seen
I
it.
have seen
What
it.
you're asking is, I guess, some of my employees asked if you could extend it.
Yes.
Because the only thing we wash is, that's bigger than the bay, is the snow equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought you'd seen the wash bay when you was there.
Wash bay extension, yeah.
Yeah. So logistically, that might be a little bit difficult too. Because if you come out into the alley, then you're gonna narrow the alley. Grade wise, in the back, you got the creek, and it's probably two foot drop out of the wash bay to the back alley. But it could be built, you know, I understand what you're saying.
I am trying to take care of your employees, and
Well, I
I
am as
know
well.
you are, and I'm speaking now, and I'm trying to help you guys. Now, I go home, and I don't have to worry about washing trucks in the middle of a winter storm, you know? You guys are doing a lot of the work. You guys are pretty much taking care of our town right now, and I appreciate the work that you do. And please, don't take it. What I'm saying is, I'm trying to take care of your employees right now, just like you are. And to me, I personally feel that this is something that needs to be taken care of now, because I don't foresee town council paying for, or I'm just talking for myself. I don't foresee us buying another property in the next 5 years with the budget we have today. Now, we didn't have a park to pay for, and we didn't have all these other extra expenses right now, like the almost $1.5 million and the heat pump and all the stuff that the aquatic centers need today. I will not have a problem thinking about buying another property. And I know, I heard from you guys 2 years ago about needing another property. I understand what you're saying. And I want you guys to be happy. If we had the money today, I'm more than sure we would have built you a new property, you know, a new facility a long time ago. I'm just saying, from my perspective, from what I have seen and what I have heard, this is needed today, not 5 years down the road. And I will hate to see us 5 years down the road and we're still waiting for a new facility and we still don't have a extension wash bay. And that's just me.
I appreciate that.
And so, and please, I'm not wanting to be mean. I appreciate what you do. And I just want to make sure that they are taken care of, just like you are. And I know, and you're doing a lot better than I am. I'm asking for a wash bay extension. You're asking for a facility, which I appreciate you bringing that up. I really do. But seeing the budget today, I don't think that we're in the financial stability to purchase it today. And that's just me looking out from my perspective. And like I said to you, we talked about this 2 years ago, and I'm more than sure it's been in your mind for a long, long time. And I've seen your facility, it's small. And you guys run a lot of equipment, and you do all the operations out of the town from that facility. And you save every penny you can, and you're working on their stuff, and I know you're making a lot of sacrifices, and you guys are making a lot of sacrifices. But to me, $100,000 is not a lot when we're talking about College Street, $3 million, you know? $100,000 to take care of your employees for another year, 2 years, 5 years, to me, that's money well spent. And that's just me personally.
Hey, next week when you get back, can we get together, you take me over to Public Works?
Yes.
Just shoot me something, tell me what days work for you, and Tuesdays are the worst day for me. Well, then we have council Tuesday night anyway, but Tuesday's the only day that's bad, so tell me what day, in the morning or afternoon, and I'll kind of adjust my schedule so we can go. It's the one place I haven't been that I really need to go.
So do you?
Have you been to the wastewater plant?
I haven't, but we were gonna go, and there was
I'll probably do both of them together.
Okay.
So let me ask you something,
Yeah.
once again, just for you, because I want to make sure that we're on the same place. Just like College Street, they all work together or nothing happens. I want to make sure that you understand what my position is. And I hope you don't feel like I don't care for buying you a new place. You know what I mean?
No, I didn't think it that way.
Okay.
And I think, you know, from Jim and our standpoint, it's just more of the practicality of it, in that expanding it, and the fact that we were looking at relocating potentially.
Well, I would love to see what the list of the properties are and the costs, and if Valerie has the money to pay for this.
It's not on the market at this point in time, and we talked about it in closed session, so it's really a non-issue about, at this point in time.
Okay, so I would like to get a second, if we can, to put it on the budget for the wash bay extension.
Yeah, and I'm not against putting it in the budget, you know, it's still gotta be voted on by the council, but I'd also like to go see the place and have a better understanding 100% of what we're attempting to do here, but I mean, we can put anything into the budget for the council to vote on, but, so I'm not in objection to adding that as a line item or whatever into the budget. But again, I still want to be competent enough to speak to it, and I haven't been there to see it, so I'll feel more comfortable, you know, but it's still a month or so away. There's no harm in putting it in as a line item.
Oh, yeah, and it's probably gonna be, that budget will be discussed 3 or 4 times after the 22nd when it's formally presented.
It will.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So,
nothing's cast in stone at this point.
So by all means, put it in there, and we'll hash out the fine stuff, but I just, like I said, I wanna go see the place and have a better understanding.
And they do a really good job. I hope you
No,
guys,
there's no doubt in my mind, they do a great job, but
they are hard workers. And how many people, and that's another item I wanted to talk to you guys since you're here. How many more additional employees have we been able to hire within this last month? Do you have anybody?
I think that's getting a little bit outside the scope of this committee meeting.
Well, that was one of the other items that I was gonna ask.
I understand it, but we're here on water and waste.
Yeah, but the public works is under this department. And I was gonna ask, do you have anybody additional that have?
Did anybody last?
Oh, we've added a couple, but they both quit.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's what we look at.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
And that's all,
Yeah.
that was one of my item questions. Thank you so much. I think we're good. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm
One
good.
thing I wanna mention is we have had some sewer backups on Cameo Court. We think
On
it's
where?
Cameo Court. We think it's related to, grease blockage. We have had blockages there with the 2009 storm we had in that area. We had, like, in 2009, we had problems really kind of all over town with the rain we had. It was a May 15th, 2009 rain. But that was definitely one of the areas that had issues.
Do you know from where the grease is coming from?
It's a residential neighborhood, so, you know, we're assuming it's coming from some of the
Oh, so
residents.
it's not business.
That is a problem that we typically have associated with restaurants. But, we have a grease inspection program, and that's definitely helped with that. Like I say, though, it's a residential neighborhood, so somebody maybe been deep frying, I don't know.
A lot of turkeys went in the, fried turkeys.
So is that fixed? Is that something we gotta do?
It's clear now.
Yeah, it's open and flowing now, but there was
But, yeah,
a few houses
we're
impacted.
probably gonna have a couple sewer backup claims
So do we
on
have?
insurance.
Okay.
We'll share them to our insurance.
Okay. All right. Are they living in there currently right now?
Yes, they are.
All right. Anything else, Randy? Andrew? Thank you so much, Jim, and everybody. This, meeting has adjourned.
You think it's basements, right? Nothing but basements.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for all the stuff and everything.
Sometimes we can get them, I thought we will. You know where we live.